Hello everyone, welcome back to Analytics with Asmi, where we deep dive into data analytics and SQL concepts to make them easy and practical for you. In today's video, we are going to tackle a topic that often causes confusion, especially for beginners in SQL, the difference between nulls, empty and blanks. You might be wondering, aren't they all the same? Well, not exactly. Each of these has its own distinct meaning in SQL and can impact your data handling, calculation and queries in different ways. So today we will explore what makes null values, empty string and blank values unique, and I will show you some useful tips on how to handle these and work with them effectively in your SQL queries. So let's get started. Let us understand the difference between first null, empty string and blank values. First we will see what is null. Null means nothing, no value, unknown, not available or absence of data. For example, you are filling any online form where you are storing your personal information such as first name, middle name and last name. Okay, so where middle name is not a mandatory, so you are skipping it. So it will create a null value over there. Okay, it will create a null in that field. So a null value can indicate that middle name was not provided. So you have not provided the information, that's why it is coming as a null, not available or absence of data. Now what is empty string? Empty string value with a 0 character means I know the value, it is nothing. For example, going with the same example where you are filling the form, where you are filling the personal information form, where a person is not having a middle name. For example, a person is there, Mary Smith, and she is not having the middle name. So we know that she is not having a middle name. That's why she is not filling it. So if you compare the null and empty string, null is for not known, right? We know the values, but we are not filling it. So it is not known. Whereas empty string is, we know it should be empty. So we know that that field should remain empty. So this is the difference between null and empty string. You can also say that nulls are missing values. We know that it is going to fill in later point of time, or we might fill it once we get it. Whereas empty strings are the value with 0 characters, and we know that it's not going to fill ever, and we know that the value is nothing. Now what are blanks? Blanks are the string values with one or more characters. How it is created? Now sometimes you are filling a form and by mistake you hit a space bar and you are entering a space into the field and you jump to the another value without entering any other value. So we have a space character inside the field. So it is creating a storage in a database. It could be 1 space, 2 space or more than that. So blank spaces are the string values which have one or more space characters. The size could be more than 0. So it is not 0 like a string, but it could be more than that depending upon how many spaces you have entered. So blank values are the string values and the character of that going to be a space. Now let's see practically the difference between null, blanks and empty string in MySQL. So here you can see I have created a table sample where we have 2 columns, int, id and category. Id has a int data type and category has a varchar data type. So let's run this. Now we have created a table where we have a id and category. Now we have to insert the values. So we are inserting these 5 rows. So IDs are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and in category we have put a character here. Okay, we have put the value. In the second row we have put the null. So whenever there are the missing values, you have to write there null. Okay, and if you want to enter an empty string with no space, with a 0 character, then you have to show something like this in a inverted comma with 0 character with no space. Okay, when we have to show the blanks there, we have to give the space between the inverted commas. For example, if I am writing here Okay, so suppose I want to give one space here, so I am just putting here space and again inverted comma. So it is creating a one space. Suppose you want to create a two space, then inverted comma, two space bar, and again inverted comma, complete. So here it is creating a two space bar, here it is creating a one space bar here, but in the empty string, as we have a zero character, no space is there. Okay, so in the third row we have a zero space, in the fourth row we have a one space, and in the fifth row we have a double space. Okay, now let's run this. Okay, now we have inserted the values here. Now when you want to verify your data, we have to use a select star from table name. So I am just running this. Now here you can see, here we can see all the three blanks, but here first is a value, second is null, as we have entered null here. In the third row we have a empty string with no space, but we can see here it is a blank only. In the fourth we have a single blank, okay, and in the fifth one we have a double blank. Okay, but here it is showing all same. This creates a confusion to a developer or any working with the SQL and data, as all empty steps looking same here. Now what to do? So what we can do here, we can calculate the length of each value here. So what we will do, we will use a length function here. Okay, so let's write this. So what I have written here, select category, and we are using the length function here for that column from the table name. Now if we are running this, now here you can see we are getting the length for each category. So as the here in the first row we are having a value, okay, so we can see here a length is equal to 1. Now it is showing null here because we don't know the value, that's why here we will get no length here. Then move to the third row where we have put the empty string. So as we know that for the empty string we have a zero character. Here you can see the length is 0. Then for the fourth one we are having a single space, that's why here length is 1, and for the double space here we have a length is equal to 2. Okay, so in order to find if it is empty or a blank, you can use a length function. Now again let's see the difference between all these three. First we'll see the null. Null with no value, not available or unknown. We can also call it as a missing value. Whereas empty strings are with zero character. We can show it in SQL with inverted comma with no space bar. Whereas for the blanks they are one or more character, and we can show it in SQL with single space bar, double space bar or many space bar. Okay, second difference is occur when there is an absence of value or it exists but is currently unknown. Whereas for the empty string the data does not exist. There is a non-existence of a data here, and blanks are created by the space bar. Third difference is it could be replaced later by a known data. Currently we don't know the data, but further we can replace it. Whereas empty string, it could be replaced by null. So when we are handling the empty string, we can convert the empty string into null values. Same for the blank values, it could be replaced by null. So in the later part of the video, we are going to see how we are going to handle this. Fourth difference is null values contain any data type. So it could be numeric or a string. Whereas for the empty string and blank, only the string characters are there. Null not occupy space, or we can say that minimal space is been occupied here. Where for the empty string and blank, it will occupy the memory. It gets stored in the database. Okay, here also in the blank, depending on how many spaces you are giving, it is consuming the memory. So we can handle the null by using if null or is null. Whereas if you want to find the empty string and blank, we can use a length character. We can use a length function, and we can use a is equal to find the empty string. Same for the blank, we can use the length for finding how many blanks are there, and to get it in SQL we can use a is equal to and we can show the inverted comma so that we can find in a database. Now let's see how to handle and manage null, empty and blank in SQL. First, let us see how to handle the blank spaces. So to handle the blank spaces, we are going to use a trim function. So what trim function is doing? It removes the unwanted leading and trailing spaces from the string. Means from the left side and the right side, whatever space are available, we can remove by using a trim function. Now let us see this in a MySQL. To remove the blank spaces, we are going to use a trim function. So here I have already written the query. So we are writing something like that. Select category. Okay, it is a column name, and we are using a trim function to this category column so that blank spaces will get removed. Okay, from a table name. Now if we are running this, it will remove the blank spaces and it will convert it into a empty string. But here you can see that we can see all same. So to check that, again we can use a length function over here. So let's write here length. Okay, so I'm using length function here and in a inverted comma. And now let's run this. Now here you can see the blank spaces are converted into an empty string. We can see here a 0 character. So this is how we can convert the blank spaces into empty string. Now we have to convert this empty string into a null values. Okay, now let's see how we can do that. Now to handle the blank spaces, we have converted the blank space into empty strings. Okay, now to remove the empty strings, we have to convert the empty strings to the null values. For that, we are going to use a nullif. So what nullif is doing? To compare and check if the column contains null or empty values, we are using a nullif. If the null is present, it will keep null, and if it is not null, means if the empty spaces are there, it will convert into a null. So nullif function evaluates its two arguments, returning null if they are equal. So if null is present, it will show it will give you null value only, and when applied to a column containing an empty value, it returns a null. So if the empty value is present there, then it will convert it into a null. So we are going to use a nullif function to handle the empty strings. Now let's see that in a MySQL. Now to convert the empty string into null values, we are going to use a nullif function. Okay, so here you can see that we have used select id category column name, then we have used a nullif function where we have a 2 characters here. So here nullif will check if the category column is having an empty string or not. If it is there, then it will convert into a null, otherwise it will return the original value of the category. Okay, now if we run this, now here you can see all the empty string is now converted into a null values here. Okay, so this is how we are going to convert the empty string into a null values. Now let's see how we can handle the null values. To deal with the null values, we can use isNull and coalesce function. So in isNull will check if the null is present in a column or not. Suppose you want to check whether in the particular column, if it is null or not. Okay, null values are present or not, then we can use a isNull. Okay, so we can write a query something like this: select star from sample where category is null. So it will show you if the null value is present or not. Now to handle this, if you want to replace it with the default value, then we can use a coalesce function here. Coalesce function is used to replace the null with the default values. Okay, so the coalesce function in SQL is used to return the first non-null value in the list of expression. So it is having the 2 parameters, the column name and the default value what you have to mention here. So if you want to write a query, you can write something like this: select the column name, then coalesce function, column name, then whatever default value you have to put, you have to mention from the table name. Now let's see how we can do this in MySQL. Now to handle the null values, we will convert it into a default value. So we have to write a query something like this: select column name, then we are using the coalesce function to replace the null values. So column name and the default value we are using here unknown. Okay, now instead of this category we have to use this null if, because we have converted to first blank into empty and then empty into the null. That's why instead of this category we are just convert, we will put that thing here. Okay, and now let's run this. Now here you can see all the null values converted into a unknown value, which is a default one. So this is how you have to convert the null values to a default values. So first what we have done, we have just handled the blank, we have converted blank into the empty string, then empty string to the null values, and from null to the default values. So this is how you have to handle the null values. So in the today's video we have seen the difference between null, empty and blanks, and then we have seen how to handle it in MySQL. Hope you like the video. If you like the video, please give thumbs up and please subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video. Thank you for watching.